All right, perfect. Thank you all so much for joining. Today's session is on course design considerations. All right. Here we go. My name is Julia Martins, and I will be your trainer today. I am currently located in Brazil, which I think is something a little different than our other trainers. I am an instructional designer, and I have used Canvas for quite a few years as a teacher, as a student, as an admin, and the only role I haven't had yet is parent. So let's see when it comes time for that. All right. If you do have any questions throughout today's training, you're more than welcome to address those through the chat. I am pretty good about getting to the chat right away and addressing the questions right on the spot. If for some reason I skip the question, we do have hands-on activity time, and when we pause for those, I will make sure to go back and double check to see if I missed any questions. All right. Perfect. All right. So for today's session, yes, of course. Let me go ahead and update that. I enabled participant count. I'm unsure if you'll be able to see who it is, but I can definitely provide an attendance list later on too with the recording. We can give you a CSV with the participants list. All right, perfect, no problem. All right, so we'll start talking a little bit about tools for evaluation. So our instructional design team has created a few different checklists to assess courses. So to start, we'll download those checklists and we'll use those checklists throughout our training. So we'll take a minute to essentially download those and then analyze, take a quick look at some essential best practice and exemplary requirements and requisites that we have listed out. Then we will look into our course evaluation checklist and kind of use the 4 categories we have right there and assess some of our courses. I will give you time to play with those. I'll explain some of those as well. And then towards the end, we'll look into the mobile design. A lot of it is very, very similar. So if you did get started with the course evaluation checklist, the mobile app design, it's a very easy jump, but it just adds a few extra notes. Again, considering that students may be using the app, which is something that we see increasing every day. All right. Perfect. So the first thing I want to do, I will actually post in the chat 3 different links. All right. So the first link you see in the chat is a link to our community guide, right? In that first link, you see this community guide, right? In here, you see the title for course evaluation checklist. This is the second and most recent version. And here, right at the top, you see it will request you to make a copy of that Canvas course evaluation checklist. I could easily just share this link with you, which is actually the second link on that chat message, where you see all of the details and functionality of this list. For the checklist itself, you can easily select use template right here on the top corner, and that will automatically create a copy for you, and then you can make changes and check boxes and so on. So you have the ability to play with this a little bit. Between us using the course evaluation checklist and Canvas instructional design using the checklist, the only difference is the format, right? So for us, we are using it in a document format because it's easier to use. If you have to print it out, for example, it's easier to see and navigate. And our team, usually they'll keep it in a spreadsheet mode, but essentially it is the exact same resource that we use in-house. All right. I provided you with the article itself because here you get a few more details. So if you'd like to read through the purpose, use cases, there is a quick video kind of going through it, final thoughts. And here there are other checklists available as well, such as the mobile app design, which we'll be using today as well, the checklist for Canvas success, beginning and end of the course checklist for instructors. So as you are wrapping up the term and a new semester is starting, you can easily use this space just to make sure everything is aligned. Maybe, for example, if you want to create an export of your grade book, if you have any final messages, final announcements, things like that, this checklist will kind of assist you on that wrap up and that opening and organization as you get started as well. And then for admins, there's a space for admins as well. All right. So at this point, I would suggest that we download that very first one right here in bold for make a copy. And scrolling down, that it went too far, download the mobile app checklist as well. So that one will open another article, and then it will be found right here under access. All right, I did provide you, and this one just asks you to make a copy right away, similar to creating a template. I'll just use this one. Here we go. Create, make a copy. If you think it's easier, which I definitely do, I did provide you direct links to both checklists as the second and third link in our chat conversation. All right, so you will find that original article as our first link right here. This is great if you would like to bookmark it, right? We know that you may be using the course evaluation checklist multiple times, perhaps if you're adding comments and so on. So you can easily bookmark this article for later reference as well. And then the second link will give you this space where you can right away use this as a template. And then that third link will give you the ability to create a copy of the mobile design app course evaluation. All right. Perfect. So these will be our very first activity. I'll give you a few minutes to download the checklist and also log into Canvas. So if you haven't already, I will invite you to log into Canvas right away, because as we get started, we'll use the checklist and use one of our courses to make sure we are addressing those course evaluation points. All right. So give us about perfect. All right, we have a link to our Canvas instance in the chat as well. So if you don't know how to log into Canvas, that will give you an option as well. So go ahead and give us about 4 minutes. If you have any questions or if you run into any issues, from what I'm feeling, we do have some members of our IT or support team here to help us as well. And I'll be here to answer any questions. All right, we have about 15 seconds left. Let me know if you ran into any issues, either logging in or trying to download the checklist. All right, perfect. With the checklist already downloaded and considering we did already log into Canvas, now I'll go ahead and start to explore what we do have in that course checklist. All right. So the checklist is broken down into course information, course content, assessment of student learning, and then course accessibility. You see that some of those are actually have a blue shading behind it. And those indicate some of the foundational items we do have, right? So for each one of the criteria, you see an indication of 1 star for essential, 2 stars for best practice, and 3 stars for exemplary. For today's session, we'll focus mainly on essential and best practice. Exemplary, we'll save it for when we are already comfortable with Canvas. We know what we're doing. We have experience. We're comfortable. Nothing new at that point. So then we can go a step further, right? So for today, we'll focus on essential and best practice. Here in our first portion, starting with course information. The first one will be talking about homepage. So a homepage will provide a visual representation of a course, ideally provide a brief description of the course and some type of introduction. Introductions can be found either as text or as a quick video. The two formats are valid and are used quite a bit. Providing clear instructions to students on where to begin, what to go next, and if we are using buttons or anything like that, making sure we have a quick and easy navigation through that content, all right? And then the second one would be for course navigation. When we're talking about course navigation, we're referring to that course navigation menu that we do have on the side of our Canvas course. All right, so those two kind of go together. So I'll now open one of my Canvas courses so we can explore what we mean and what we're talking about with those two. All right. Perfect. So right here, I have a Canvas course already open. Inside this Canvas course, you see right at the top, I have the title of that course, in this case, Intro to Psychology. Then I have a nice welcome message, welcome to the course, and then a short description. In this case, I do have a self-paced course and I'm giving students a little bit of a feel of what to expect in regards to content, right? So I'm telling them that it is divided into 4 modules. Each module will be focusing on one topic. They can easily move through the content in sequential order, and then I'll be assessing them as we go, right? Again, very simple, just have a welcome message, giving them a brief description, either about the topic or about how the course is designed, where to go next. And then right here below, you see I have a few different banners, each one serving as a button. So for each one of this, I am actually linking those images, those banners, to a module. And then each module will focus on that lesson, right? So you see here that as I hover over this image, it will say Introducing Psychology, and then that is linked to lesson 1 module titled Introducing Psychology. The same thing for the following one. Then I'm looking at lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, and so on. So if I were to go into modules, I will see that exact same structure, right? Homepage design. Homepage design will be different for each course, right? So you will definitely be working with your own course, putting in what you feel is appropriate. If it is a video welcome message, if it is a little guide, a little navigation, tips and tricks, where to go next, that will always vary depending on the course, right? Home pages are designed with the Rich Content Editor. So the same tools we use for content creation, right? So if I were to go right here into edit, you see that I do have all the same tools I do have when creating content, right? So I can easily add links, images, media, documents, embed anything. Maybe I have already an introductory video in a media platform, I can easily bring that in, right? If you want to give students access to the syllabus right away, you can easily link out to the syllabus and say, please check out the syllabus. Please find content inside modules. Having the ability to use course links as well. So all of the items, icons, text that is added in this space will be done through the use of the Rich Content Editor and in the best way you find to support your students. Again, that will vary depending on the teacher, depending on the course, depending on course design, if it is fully online, online and synchronous, asynchronous, in person, things like that, right? The important point is that based on what I have in my homepage, my students do know where to go next, and they are getting meaningful information right here. All right. Having the homepage be a designed homepage is also a choice, right? As I am under home right here from my course navigation menu, I do have the ability to choose a homepage, and here is where I would set to have it as this front page that was nicely designed. By default, if you haven't created that homepage yet, and if you haven't played with the settings, you'll most likely be looking at course modules. All right, so you can easily change this right here inside the homepage by clicking on choose homepage. All right. Unfortunately, designing a homepage, maybe creating nice buttons. Oh, ours is set. Perfect. All right. With all of that together, what it's left for us to do is personalize our course navigation menu. All right. Here, the menu that we do see as teachers is fairly lengthy, right? For example, in mine, the order is as follows: home, announcements, syllabus, modules, and so on. There may be a few items right here that I don't want my students to have visibility. Maybe I will not be using those, so it doesn't make sense for my students to see it. But as a teacher, you always have access to the full menu, all right? In my case, only these top items are available to my students. So I only want them to see what it's meaningful to the course and it's meaningful to them, right? If I am not using for example, quizzes. If all of my quizzes are added to modules already, there's no point on having that quizzes tab enabled right up in the top, right? Same thing with people. If maybe I am not using groups, and if I am using groups, the groups are already created. I am not requiring self-sign up. There's no reason for my students to see that class list in this space. I can easily disable that as well, right? The cool thing about it is that if I go into student view, which will give me a true student experience, you see that that menu now, it's much less overwhelming, right? I'll only see what I need to see. It's also clean, it's consistent. It won't give students any miscommunication, any misguided information. It's not that they will land in a place that it's not organized or it's not meant for them to see, right? For example, in this case, considering my homepage, easily by clicking on those banners, they will be going to that module right away. So there's no place for them to go other than modules, right? And the same thing here with my menu. In announcements, they will be seeing the most recent announcements, what I have communicated with them under the syllabus, which we'll get into in a little bit. They'll get more information. Then modules, of course, where all of my content is housed and stored. Grades, if they do want to have access to their grade book, see how they're doing, check total grades and so on. And in this case, I do have credentials, all right? So essentially, simplifying this menu for my students. I'll go ahead and leave student view and show you how we can do this. So in this case, I'll scroll all the way down into settings. So in order to change what this course navigation menu looks like, I must go all the way down into settings. Settings will by default, and it can't be changed. It will always be the very last option in this menu. So you can scroll all the way down. I'll go ahead and click on settings. Perfect. Up in this space, you will land on course details, and I'll kindly ask you to go into navigation. So it'll be that third tab down. And here I have my top list with the items that are visible to my students. And in the bottom, I'll see items that I have hidden from my students. In order to change, personalize, add, and remove, reorder, I can easily drag and drop options from the bottom list to the top list or from the top list to the bottom list. And I can also rearrange the order in which those appear. All right. If the dragging and dropping you're not a big fan, you can easily click in the three dots and choose the option to move or disable. Moving would give me the ability to rearrange the order, and disabling would simply bump this into that bottom list. If I go into that bottom list in the three dots, I have the ability to enable or move. Any changes you make into this space, we must scroll all the way down and hit save in order for those to be applied. All right. So to personalize that course navigation menu, I must go all the way down into settings. All right. Once I am under settings, I can go into navigation. And then here I'll make the adjustments. Anything that I want visible to my students, I'll have it up in the top. Items that I want hidden will be all the way in the bottom. And then going all the way down, and we need to make sure we hit save. All right. Perfect. I'll give you a few minutes to play with that a little bit. I'll give us about, let me do maybe 2 minutes. All right. If you run into any issues, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. All right, we have a few seconds left. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, perfect. So next in the checklist, we have from 1.3 to 1.5, things that usually we do find under our syllabus. All right, what would those be? So first, key learning information, right? Such as learning goals, learning objectives, standards, course materials, supplemental textbooks, reading lists, classroom expectations, participation rules, etiquette expectations, policies for grading, late work and makeup work policies, technology requirements, and obviously instructor contact information, right? All of those usually are found under the syllabus. And a lot of times we are sharing the syllabus as a file, right? So in Canvas, you'll notice that I have a menu option right here called syllabus. And here I can use this space to provide my students with that file version of my syllabus, but I can also give them information right here in text format as well, right? For example, under syllabus, I will have this edit button right here up in the top. And in this space, I can easily add instructor information, course descriptions. If you are addressing resources for the mobile app, due dates and homework, activity policies, communication, your rules and etiquette expectations, and so on. And I could easily add a downloadable version to the syllabus in this space as well, right? So download the syllabus here, right? So this is really common. You can just say syllabus document. Ooh. Perfect. I could easily highlight this text under insert with the Reach content editor. I can easily come right here and upload a syllabus. So let me just pick any random document I do have. I'll hit submit. And then once that loads, I can do link options. I could see what are my displaying options. A lot of times you want students to have this downloaded but it will also give them a way to preview it inside Canvas without the need to download. What are the pros of doing this? Using the syllabus area is one place that students know the key information is here, right? Syllabus documents often are lengthy, right? We are looking at 10, 16 pages long documents. This will give me the chance to highlight some items, some elements, such as instructor information, which students will often use, right? Course description, textbook materials, policies, and so on. So you have the ability to highlight some of those, some of that information. You can still provide them with a downloadable version, or if you have this in a Canvas page, you can link out to that Canvas page. But another cool thing that this area with the syllabus will provide us is the ability to show course summary. So right below that text box, you will see this little chat box. Right here, as I click and I have this selected, I am enabling Canvas to show students a little course summary. For example, a lot of times part of that syllabus will be a table that sometimes isn't that accessible, that also suffers changes and adjustments and due date mix-ups, right? This way, Canvas will automatically put together a course summary of all course activities, right? So based on due dates, I can see here that on August 4th, my students have to complete all of this discussion topics. And then I have the due time as well. So on that date, by that time, they must have completed these graded discussions. Same thing right here for these assignments. And then I have a few quizzes as well. So this will be put out in chronological order. And if there are any changes on due dates that will obviously be applied inside Canvas, this course summary will also automatically be updated. So I'll go ahead and update this syllabus. And in this space, I can easily provide students with all of that information from the criteria 1.3, 4, and then 5. And as a gift, I am also getting this course summary to be displaying right here for my students. So as long as I am using due dates, this will be here. It will be complete. It will give students a true information. So it's not something that I put together in a file that if something changes, if there is a snow day or anything like that, that changed that schedule slightly, that document that I uploaded right here could be out of date, right? This way, with the course summary, it will adapt and provide students with any updates and changes that are coming into Canvas. All right. Perfect. So that will take care of these top 5 icons right here. A few things that I also wanted to share is the 1.6 for course card. So course card will provide students with a visual representation of that subject by simply adding an image into our course settings. So when we're talking about this, it's actually referring back to what students see in their dashboard, right? So if I open my dashboard right here, I have this one is in a different language. Let me move this out of the way. Here we go. I'll see here that my biology lab has a few, definitely I can identify that this would be a lab work. My geology course, I can see here a little scenario. For my psych course, I have a little brain. Here again, just that copy of my bio lab, right? These images, they can be uploaded and set by the teachers. So it's something that you do course by course. It can be different for each course. And it is something that students will see. Sometimes I have seen cases where the teacher thinks only the teacher will see it. But in this case, this would apply and students will be able to see it as well. All right. In the dashboard, you can change nickname. So in this case, you see that I have my favorite class. You can change that color, right? So those changes for nickname and then color would only apply to the user. So if in my Canvas, I am seeing my favorite class for that biology lab and it is in orange. If I go to my students and I say, hey guys, please open my favorite class, you'll find it in orange. That may not be accurate, right? Because those nickname and the color are exclusive to the user. So whatever I change in regards to color and nickname would be for my eyes only. What is different is that for my image, the students will be seeing the exact same image that I am seeing. So if, for example, I need to say, hey guys, open that bio course that has a beaker on it, they will know what I am referring to. All right. How can I set this image? Once again, we'll go into our course and then scroll all the way down into settings. All right. Once again, we are looking at settings. Perfect. And the very first thing we see when in course details is here, image. At this point, I can choose an image, so I would be able to upload something from my computer. I can then search or download or even create an image, and then I can easily upload that right in, and it would display right here as my course image. All right. So it is one other thing that we can do from this space. Just like everything else, once you have that image uploaded, we must go all the way down and then update course details. All right. Perfect. All right. So back to our checklist. At this point, we covered most of the course information options. The very last thing would be referring to institutional resources, right? So having a page or a space where you are addressing, or even a module, exclusively focusing on institutional resources, how to, where to go to the library website, if you have writing centers, any type of supportive role that your institution is offering, having students be aware of that and providing all of that inside the course as well. All right. Perfect. The next topic we'll have would be for course content. So the first thing we have would be copyright, right? As we're looking at copyright, it would apply to a number of different things, right? So printed material, images, illustrations, photographs, motion media, music, lyrics, music videos, numeric data. There's a number of different things that we could be providing students through the course that would apply and fall under copyright, right? So making sure everything that you do have is being shared the correct way. For example, books, right? A lot of times we see PDF version of books. And I think this is every librarian's nightmare, where they actually wanted to be providing students with an ebook or a link to an ebook. A lot of times the library will work with you to get that resource for students as well. All right. Next, under foundational, we do have the URLs. So when we're looking at URLs, there are two things. One is that we want the URLs and any links to be hyperlinked. We don't want those links to come in exactly how I am sharing it in the chat, right? With the HTTPS and so on. For accessibility reasons, that would not be ideal. Beyond that, we also want the links to be active. We don't want students to be looking at a broken link or be facing a page that doesn't exist anymore or anything like that. All right. For that reason, right back into our settings, Canvas has created what we call the link validator. All right. So in this space, right here under my settings, I have this course status column. And in this space, I will find validate links in content. In my screen, it does appear right here on the side. If you are in a smaller screen or if you have zoomed in, it may be found all the way to the bottom. All right. So it's either right next to the details or all the way to the bottom of your page. In my case, I'll go ahead and click right here and validate links in content. It will ask you to start, in my case, restart, but start that link validation. It does take a few minutes, and that's completely fine. Depending on the amount of content you do have in your course, it may take a little bit longer, it may be a little bit faster, but essentially, Canvas will provide you with a list of things that may be broken or problematic or things that may need a little bit of extra attention. All right. Course link validator is something that I will always advise you to do as you are putting the content together, but most importantly, before the term starts, right? We know that as you're putting content together, you're obviously going to use links that are working, videos that are currently posted, but sometimes videos are taken down, articles are deleted, things like that, and it happens. A lot of that is out of our control, but this way we are aware of that before students run into any issues, right? So especially if you are copying content from a past term, doing this step before publishing the course, it's very, very important. All right. As you click on start, or in my case, restart link validation, you can also ask to show broken links or issues in unpublished content. And in here, you'll find very detailed what is wrong, what we may need to do. In my case, I see here that in my quizzes, there are a few broken links in this lesson. I can see here that that new scientist data image may not be displaying. This will also serve as a shortcut, so I can easily open this lesson in the new tab. And let's see if I find that issue. Most likely, this is that web URL that was broken. If I click right here, you'll see that it will tell me that this is an error and that this page no longer exists. So right away, I can either look for that image in a different place, or I can replace this source, or I can replace the image altogether. All right. But essentially, Canvas is guiding me through, and it would be much, much harder and take much longer for me to click on every single link I am providing. All right. Perfect. So with that, I'll actually give you a few minutes to try that out. Let me go one more. Here we go. So open a course that does have content, then going into settings and look for that validate links into content, and then check that out. I'll give us about 4 minutes for this activity, because if you do have any links that must be replaced, I wanted to explore that a little bit. All right. You may run and rerun that links validator as many times as you want, as many times as you need, as you are teaching or working on that content. If you have any questions so far, please feel free to let me know. All right. Perfect. Considering that our links are all working and we have taken care of that, now we have a few other items in this course content portion that are still essential, perhaps not foundational, right? So this will depend again on your course design, on if your course is fully online, if you are having synchronous, either in-person or online digital interactions as well, right? In here, we are considering student-to-student interaction. So where can students collaborate and communicate with one another, creating that sense of community, right? For that, with Canvas, we can use discussions, we can use group discussions, we can use collaborations, and we can also use peer review. So here are some ideas where you can create and how you can create those interactions between students. Then learning activities that will create and foster student to teacher interaction. Through these, we will be providing quality feedback almost everywhere in Canvas where you are providing feedback. Students can also comment back, right? So if you are using the commenting tool in SpeedGrader, the same way you can leave comments, students can reply to those, right? Students can also be the ones doing that first step in providing some comments as they are submitting that activity. And then that interaction can start right there, all right? And then 2.5, we're looking at student to content interaction. What do we mean by that, right? With student to content, of course, through Canvas, we will be delivering content, right? That could be pages, articles, resources that I can easily import or paste right in, right? But we can also do engaging and interactive content through the use of media or also through the use of simulations or anything like that that could essentially be housed outside of Canvas, right? So let me go ahead, open our course. I'll go into modules and I'll give you a few examples. So inside my page right here, I do have a few videos, right? If I add and use videos inside my course, I can use videos either that I created, that I recorded and so on. And I can also bring some from YouTube, for example. Those will easily play right inside your course. And by adding those right here, students do not need to experience or wait or skip the ads. Automatically, Canvas will strip all of those out and then students go directly to the content. Let's say instead of bringing that right into Canvas, I gave my students a link to YouTube. If that was the case, you see that my students would still be able to watch the video. Maybe they did have to wait and skip the ads, but also I do have this column right here with extra videos. You see there are a few timers because I use timers quite a bit. And this column will be populated based on interest, right? So if I look for timers all the time, you see that in this list, I have quite a few timer options. And that would be the same for your students. So if your students are really into gaming, they would have a few videos right here suggested that maybe are referring to that topic that they really like. By bringing that into Canvas, through the use of the Rich Content Editor, I am essentially taking care of that, right? I don't need to worry that my students will watch the video for 3 minutes, and then instead of keep going through content, they will then be watching a 1-hour video on a new video game that's coming up, right? So that's one thing. Through the use of the Rich Content Editor, if I go into edit right here, let me go down a little bit. Here we go. I can easily use the insert option and bring in content through that embed tool, right? That content could be my YouTube videos, right? So if I bring in that exact same video, I can easily go into share right here on YouTube. Embed, I could copy this, embed code, and then back in Canvas, I can simply paste that in, hit insert, and that video would be edit. I can also do simulation. So for example, I'll use FAT just because it is open source. So anyone could have access to this space. I'll choose a simulation right here. I think there's one that I really like for the balloons. Here we go. So I can choose any simulations. Again, I'm using PhET because it is open source, but you can use any other simulation you like. The exact same way I can find that embed in YouTube, I can find embed in this space as well. The embed could be found in many different ways. So here with the brackets, a lot of times just with that share button, the word share. Sometimes we have that arrow that kind of starts really thin and then it opens up. A few different ways we can look for the embed code. I'll copy it to my clipboard, back to Canvas. I can do insert again, embed. I can paste this right here, hit submit, and then my students can complete this and engage with this simulation in this space as well. And then one last one, I want to do auto draw. I am using simple examples, things that I know and that I use quite a bit for demos. For example, auto draw is something that I cannot use or find those icons to share, right? I cannot find that share button. I cannot find those brackets. But what I do have is that website, right? For that reason, and again, this will work with some resources. It may not work with all, but with AutoDraw, for example, I can easily copy this link. And then in YouTube, in Google, I can search for embed code generator. There are many available. I'll simply choose this one. Whoop. This is not giving me the. Let me do this one. Here we go. So I can easily come right here. I'll paste that link, hit check, and then right below, it should have created here my iframe. So I'll go ahead and copy code. I'll go back to Canvas, insert, embed, paste that right in. So wait a few seconds. It should display just like this. Let me do iframe generator. Generator, here we go. Do an iframe generator right here. Once again, copy this link, back to my iframe generator, paste that in, hit on generate. It will get me that iframe code. I'll copy it, and then back to Canvas, insert, embed. I'll paste that right in, hit submit. As I save this page, you see that this will give me a few different ways my students are actively engaging with this content. Through the video, simply by clicking play. With that simulation here, they can see how the balloon will behave. They may add another balloon. What will this look like? What can I do? So I can play with it a little bit. If I scroll down with that auto draw, my students can easily use this tool right inside Canvas. So in this case, they will start drawing. They will have here that whiteboard where they can play with, they can change color. So many different tools that you have available in the web, you can easily integrate and bring those right into Canvas, either into a page through the use of the Rich Content Editor, but also into a module. So if I go right here into my modules, and I have here, let me open a periodic table, for example. So I have this interactive periodic table that will give my students extra information on each element. I can easily copy this link from that periodic table. As I go into my modules, I can add an item to that module, use the external tool option, and simply paste the URL. And I can say periodic table. Go ahead and do add item. And when my students come right here and they open this item, Whoop. Oh, it should open right inside Canvas. Let me do external URL. Oh, this is what I did. External URL, periodic. External tool will be giving me my app. So that's what happened there. Let me remove this one. Here we go. Open my periodic table. Here you go. And you see how we place right inside Canvas. So essentially, this is something that lives outside of Canvas. It lives on this website, but my students can easily play with it, select different items right here, different elements, and see how those behave. All right. So a few different things that I can do to create those interactions between student and content. All right. The next one that we do have is about chunking content, right? When we're talking about chunking content, we mean having a page that is really, really lengthy. In the web version, that would be even lengthier if I were using the app, right? That very long scroll will make it less likely that my students will look through all of that content, that students are paying as much attention because they simply would get tired, right? If it is and it seems long in the web version, it would be much worse again in that app version, right? So that is one thing that will be mentioned in the course evaluation checklist and reinforced in the mobile app checklist. All right. Easily, instead of having all of those scrolls, I could create separate pages, right? And then instead of scrolling down, my students will be using the next button to navigate through that content. So if I were to go right here into my module, I'll use the second one because I already destroyed that first page. You see that it doesn't have a whole lot of information for one single page, right? I have what, about 5 paragraphs? And then my students would easily click next. And then in this case, watch a video, next again. They would then have access to that discussion, and then next again, go through that activity, right? So this way, there isn't anything that is extremely overwhelming or it's really hard to navigate. Another thing that I have heard from students even is that if the pages are too long, they may not read the entire thing at once. And it's much, much harder to know where you stopped if it's all in one page, right? So if those were separate pages, in our example right here, it would be easier to know, okay, so I read the first 3. When I come back, I'll start with the Joshua 3, right? So I could easily see how that plays out if my teacher has requirements and restrictions and prerequisites in my modules. Those check marks will also help me through this space. All right. Perfect. Now, let me go back into our checklist. Let me close off a few windows as well. Here we go. So at this point, we have looked through all of our items that are essential for course content. So again, looking at copyright, there is a guide right here as well. The URLs, having that link validator, and then the interactions that students can have, student to student, student to teacher, and then student to content. And then chunking out that content one item that will be reinforced in the mobile design consideration checklist. All right. Perfect. Now I'll go down a little bit into our next topic for assessment of student learning, right? So the first option we have for foundational and essential would be detailed instructions. For detailed instructions, we want to be clear. We want to ensure that will be easy for students to understand. We're not leaving any room for miscommunication, but we also don't want to be so, I guess, direct or descriptive that could not vary, right? One thing that is important to note is that the web version, with looking at Canvas from a browser such as Google Chrome, Explorer, Safari, and so on, would be different than the experience submitting work or participating in a discussion from the mobile app. And even right here today, you have noticed that when we were doing the link validator, I said that that option may be right here on the column, or depending on your screen size or how zoomed in you are, that may be found below, right? So if I were to provide instructions to finding the link validator, I would have to say, look for the link validator. It may be right here on the side or below your course details, right? We don't want to be direct. So, hey, it will be right here on the side. If it's not there, contact support, right? Because there is a case, but if I were to be using the app, maybe where would I find that, and so on. When providing detailed instructions, my suggestion is always to provide detailed instructions, maybe have a breakdown and consistent template even for your assessment activities, right? So always address a little overview, what are your learning goals with that activity, then instructions, which sometimes may even be in a list format, right? So first, read through the content, then take this quiz, and then please submit, things like that, right? And also, lastly, I would suggest providing students with some Canvas support guides, right? If your students are submitting work through the app, maybe how to submit an assignment with the student app. If you are requesting students to do a video submission, look for a guide on how to submit video as a student, right? So those things are available in the Canvas community guide. So if I were to come here to the community, and I'll navigate out to Canvas right here. I'll look for Canvas LMS. I will see. Let me go to home and start from scratch. Here we go. I'll go into Canvas. Right here, I can choose Canvas LMS or the mobile if I want to provide them resources on those apps. I can do, let me see, I can even do the additional guides. Here we go. Additional resources, resource documents. There are videos available as well. Here I can choose by content. Do I want instructor, observers, so on? Maybe I want to do, where am I, student? Ooh. Student visibility, I can search for student guide. So how to submit an assignment. As I search, I can also identify right here below that this is a student guide. So this will give me the student view on Canvas. So as I am providing these guides to my students, making sure I am providing a student guide instead of a teacher guide will be easier for them. That way, all of the screenshots, all of the images will reflect what they will be seeing, right? So the start button, where is that found? You will also tell them what they are seeing, explaining what the different information is, what does this mean, and so on. So Canvas has done a lot of the work for us, so we might as well use it, right? So a few things when it comes to instructions and the assessment. Another thing that is really important to note is that we are able to support different learning styles based on the different submission types, right? So if I were to come right here and I'll open my assignment, into that submission type, we go all the way down, here we go. Under the submission type, if I am using online, for example, if perhaps I am not assessing grammar or how well they can write, I can easily choose different, even all options right here. In that case, if for that student, it's easier to just sit down, put their thoughts into the rich content editor and then submit it right away, they can do that. If they have that content, that material is stored elsewhere, or if they looked for an article and they want to share that, they can easily do that as well. With the media recording, my students can easily record either an audio or a video and then upload that through this space as well. And then file uploads would allow them to upload a file, right? A lot of times with file uploads, students will also have the ability to submit an image. So if, for example, you want your students to do a concept map and upload that, it can be harder and even more distracting to put together a concept map digitally, right? So if they are to use a Word document or a Google document to put that down, often they will spend more time trying to insert the circles and insert the arrows and so on than it would be if they had just done it in paper and then take a picture and upload that, right? With the file upload and student annotation, the teacher would still have access to the same annotation tools on SpeedGrader. Through text entry, web URL, media recording, student annotation, and file uploads, the teacher will still have the ability to use comments. They will have the ability to use media, either audio or video, for feedback. The comment library, rubrics, if you have attached those, you can easily use rubrics with either of those as well, right? For teachers, would be a similar experience for that grading process, but for students, it can be a big difference to have other submission types available, right? So that way they can do something that makes more sense to them, something that is easier for them, and that they feel that they will express themselves better. All right, I'll go ahead and hit save. Perfect. We have extra information right here, right? So going beyond the foundational, having formative and then summative assessments, using the SpeedGrader, again, that the submission type wouldn't change a whole lot there for the teachers. When using the SpeedGrader, there is a Canvas guide right here that will give you more insight. One thing that I would always advise is when using SpeedGrader, obviously we have the ability, I don't know if I have any student that has submitted. We have the ability to use annotation tools depending on the assessment type, but we will also have the ability to view and use a rubric. Let me adjust the screen size. And then we have the ability to add a comment. One thing that I have seen is that teachers do spend quite a bit of time putting a rubric together. For example, they use that rubric, they leave comments on that rubric, or they do annotations. They are very through when putting all of that out and giving meaningful feedback. And then the student doesn't see those, right? Or they don't know how to see those. So one thing that I always do is using that comment area to tell students how you are providing that feedback, right? I know I got here a comment that came just to me, but I feel like we should all see it. It just says, yes, that is frustrating, period. Correct. So here I even have my comment library to say, please take a look at annotation feedback. Please take a look at the rubric, right? Students, when they are looking at their grades, they will have icons that will tell them what that question was, what that, for example, let me do this one. Let me easily just paste in some feedback right here. I'll hit save, and then I'll say, please take a look at the rubric. So by using this comment tool, and I could do this through here's speech to text recognition. I could do video and then insert a file as well. If I go back to my course, use that student view and go into grades, you see that I have here that grade already there. You see that students will, here we go, have icons indicating how the teacher has provided feedback. So the comment, I think, is the easiest one to see. As I click right here, it will give them what my comment was. In this case, I am telling them to take a look at the rubric, right? If I gave annotations, I can say, please take a look at the annotations. If my students don't know where to find the annotations, I can easily grab a resource guide, paste that right here, and then they will be able to navigate and know where to go and how to navigate this space. For rubrics, there is an icon for the rubrics as well, and then the rubric will display right below that grade. So it's really easy for students to open that space. That's why rubrics is one of the things that is often pushed. It is, I think, in the exemplary, best practice, here we go. Rubrics is part of the best practice level for assessment, because it will give students that shortcut, and it's one extra way that we're trying to have students not miss this feedback, right? So I think those things and understanding how students are seeing this feedback can also help. All right. Let me go ahead. If I click back on this rubric, it will be collapsed. And then students can see status and so on. So a few things that can be used right here. All right, perfect. So we looked into SpeedGrader. I did do a quick dive into rubrics as well. And then let's talk a little bit about accessibility. Accessibility is the last topic we have right here. All right, when looking at accessibility, the very first thing, and one that will help you take care of everything else, is using the accessibility checker. All right. So everything that is created inside Canvas with the use of the Rich Content Editor can be checked right away for potential issues. All right. So let me come right here. I'll go back to my modules. I will open a page. Here we go. Perfect. And then I'll go into edit. Perfect. As I am putting my content together, images. As I upload images, it will always ask for an alt text. How do I put alt text together? What do this mean? What type of text do I need to add? First is we need to describe the image within that context, right? So let's say I have a panda image, which is our mascot. I can talk about pandas and have a panda image because it is Instructure's logo. I could talk about a panda when I'm talking about China. I can have a panda image when I am talking about a zoo, right? So I can easily come right here and be descriptive. One mistake that is often made is that we add image off, right? We do not need to do that. We can go right away into what the content of that image is. In this case, I can say statue, or I can say banner with a statue, right? So here you can easily describe what that image is. The only thing we do not want is the image title or something that similar to what I had before, right? So here, thinker, collage, and then the size, right? That's not what we want. Another option, I'll just say banner. Another option that we have is to set images as decorative images. What would this do? If a student were to go through content with a screen reader, by checking this as decorative, it would completely ignore that this banner exists. If that's the case, perfect, we can do that. But a lot of times, students will use images for references, right? So the same way as we're giving directions, we'll say, well, you can turn or right on that pharmacy. Students can also use that when communicating with peers, right? So, hey, click on that button, or did you see that reference right below that image, right next to that icon, things like that. So often I do suggest to have it enabled and simply add that alt text. All right. Other things that we want to be careful, the full URL, right? Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. The full URL. So if I were to copy this link and then paste it right here, as soon as I hit space, you'll see that it does become an active link, right? So it turns blue, it is underlined. If my students click right here, they would go to this page. But if a student were to go through this with a screen reader, it would read link https //TRAI and so on. And that can be painful to go through, right? So why not use insert link, external link, and then I can easily say Canvas course, and I can also paste the link right here. I'll hit done, and it will look like this, right? Instead of having that full link displaying, I will have it hyperlinked inside that text. For those that do like and are used to shortcuts, regular shortcut for inserting links is Control or Command K, and that will also work in Canvas. So if I just say Canvas course, I highlight and do Control K or Command K, I can easily paste that right here and hit done. All right. Perfect. Beyond all of that, I can also use, and I should use, text headings, right? Text headings are not only to make this page prettier, but it will help me organize this space. Text headings are much more effective than changing the font size, making it bold, italic, underlined. Using the headings will indicate that a new section is starting for students that are experiencing this content through a screen reader, all right? So this is one other thing that will improve that student experience, especially if you do have a student that is using a screen reader to go through your content, all right? Perfect. So at this point, we did talk a little bit about best practices, right? So I'm using the insert, using my headings under format. You can see blocks, formats, and so on. But what if I make a mistake or I do something that maybe I didn't mean to do? For example, let's say that this whole paragraph, I want to put a background right here. And I want to change this font color as well, right? Maybe I think this is really pretty and it looks really nice. Perhaps this may not be accessible. So a few things such as contrast ratio will be indicated by my accessibility checker. So, went it too fast. So the accessibility checker will be found right below next to your word count. As issues come up, you see that the number will increase. So for example, if I add a table, you see that number will jump as well to 4, for example, because there are a few things that need attention. So if I come right here, click on that icon, Canvas will help me fix some of those issues. So right here, I am looking at issue 1 out of the 4 I have. First, fixing that alt tag. So I can say banner, hit apply. Then it's coming to that content that is definitely not meeting the contrast ratio. The 2 colors are too similar. I can then navigate out right here and look for a way that this will become accessible. You see that the apply button will only be enabled once that minimum requirement is met. So if it is still pretty bad and it can't be read easily, I cannot hit apply. If I come right here to a lighter tone, then the ratio is being met and I can click apply. For tables, tables is one thing that I will always suggest to use the accessibility checker as you are using them. It will always ask for a caption. I can do a demo table, for example, hit apply, and it will ask you to specify if you have a header row, header column, or both, or also none. So go ahead and do a header row, hit apply, and then that will be taken care of. With tables, specifying if you have a header row or column will be really nice, because then a screen reader would know how to read that table, right? So where is that content placed? Where it should start? It's just reading side to side, top to bottom. How should it go through this content? All right. So the screen reader, again, the accessibility checker will be available every time you are in edit mode inside the Rich Content Editor. All right. Perfect. So with that, let me get us to, whoop, here we go. One more. No, went too fast. Here we go. One more activity before we do our last notes and wrap up. You can easily choose a page and any page with some content and then play with that a little bit. If you'd like, you can create some issues just like I did with that ratio contrast, just so you can experience how that works. After the time runs out, we'll do a few last notes and then check in for questions. All right, perfect. So quickly talking a little bit about the student app. So most of the things we covered today will also be helpful and improve the student experience with the app. From how the content is added to how we're using Gradebook, all of that will indeed be impacting and making student experience easier when using the app as well. All right. The student app usage is only increasing, and I feel like it will always increase. Students are used to having cell phones, tablets, and it's much quicker and faster than it is sometimes to open a browser, wait for the Wi-Fi to connect, and so on. Things that we didn't dive in today that will also impact are using modules, which is the base of every course, but also text headers. With the app, the navigation relies even more on modules, and the way it displays is that students do have access to module titles and then the module itself. So that navigation is even easier and more explicit in the app. The main way for student navigation in the app is, again, through modules. How content is added is also one thing that will greatly impact student experience. If things are created right inside Canvas, they will display as a Canvas page. So the font will be a size that is readable from a mobile device, being a phone or a tablet. If we do file uploads, those often will be smaller. And in order to be able to read, student will have to zoom in and then go side to side to follow that sentence, right? The same would be true right here. So a file that was embedded, in this case, probably scanned, which is another problem, versus something that was natively built in Canvas. All right. Again, both checklists are available in the resources I shared with you at the beginning of the session. I shared with a few other folks right here. I'll share it just one last time with everyone.